We are talking about our favourite word in the Bible. And the word that we picked is taste. From Psalm 34, verse 8, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the one who takes refuge in him. And we're going to have a little bit of fun this morning, hopefully, guys. Me and Dan are going to have a little bit of fun this morning.
Yeah, we are.
Let's be up for it. Come on, here we go. So, what's our favourite word in the Bible? We gave it away at the beginning. We're kind of fairly simple guys. It's not some Hebraic word or ancient sort of word that we don't really understand. It's just one syllable. It's one of our favourite things that we do every day. Taste. Exactly. Why taste? Well, some of our favourite memories are food memories.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember when we used to, as teenagers, all pile into the day centre minibus and go to Pizza Hut in Tonbridge Wells?
Oh, they were some of the best days of our lives. Good. I'm not really sure how much tasting we did, though, the speed that we inhaled the dough and the cheese in that place, but it was fantastic. Well, do you remember that time we had the most popular ramen in Vancouver?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Chopper was there as well, and he got the extra spicy stuff, and we basically had to towel him down afterwards and apologise for the puddle that was left on the floor.
Yeah, he wasn't in a good shape, and the next morning he wasn't in a great shape either, but we won't go into it.
Yeah. Do you remember the poutine we had as well? If you don't know what poutine is, it's chips, good, cheese, good, gravy, amazing, all mixed together. It's the best.
It's a Canadian dish. As Canadians, we know what we're doing. Remember those burgers at St John's Yard?
Oh, they were good. And the burger in In-N-Out Burger in California. Oh, so good.
So isn't it amazing how emotive the food and the taste memories are? You're probably all thinking of like a dish you might have had at some point, and you're almost tasting it now as you're remembering that flavour. And that brings us on to the question that we asked you last week, which was, what is the best or the worst thing that you've ever tasted? And we received some responses.
Yeah, we had one from Maxine Pierce. I think she's here this morning. She says, soggy pastry. I don't know if that was, was it sweet or savoury?
I just don't want to go near it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Nobody likes a soggy bottom, do they? No. Oh, gosh.
Nothing to see there. Just a very big violin falling over. Linda Young wrote in and she said this. 3 years ago, I was in hospital recovering from an operation. Rather dreading the idea of hospital food, I was delighted to see my best meal ever among the choices. Steak and kidney pie, followed by semolina pudding. Okay, I think we know how that one's landed. Knowing how much my husband shares my enthusiasm for this meal, and how my adult children would still describe it as their worst ever meal, I WhatsApp a photo to the whole family to see their reactions, yuck or yum. It certainly cheered me up and sped up my recovery. So thank you, Linda.
We had one from Esther Hardman, who said, in all caps, coriander. And she says, I think I must have the anti-coriander gene. It's a thing. Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Apparently you have a gene that makes you taste coriander as soap.
Yeah, anyone hate coriander and it tastes like soap? It is a thing. Yeah, okay, not as many as, but you're in, you're in the minority, but it is a thing. So
1 in a million.
And we've got one here. The worst thing I've ever tasted is my wife's cooking, and that's from. Oh no, wait, no. Anon. So. Okay, so thank you for those responses. And taste can conjure up these good memories, can't it? But why have we picked it as our favourite word? Well, to help us unpack what this verse is all about, we'd love a couple of volunteers to join us on the stage who don't mind sitting over here on the chairs, being blindfolded and testing a few different bits of food and maybe not pressing charges at the end of it. So do we have 2 willing volunteers? We've got one there, yep. Can we get one more volunteer?
Amazing. Let's go. This is your second week, isn't it? Can you remind everyone what your name is? Lenny.
Lenny's here. Can we get a friend for Lenny on stage?
Hey.
Oh, yeah, no, change of plan, sorry.
Change of plan, okay. Well, Lenny, we'll go with you, Lenny. And if anyone wants to join us halfway through, you're more than welcome.
Oh, there's another one.
Oh, Mum, okay. Right.
Oh, we can have 3 if you want. Should we have a third one?
Oh, why not? Yeah. The
Yeah,
more
do
the
you want to come
merrier.
on?
Yeah. Well, knowing my mum's intolerances to gluten and dairy and various other aspects of food, you should probably sit down, Mum.
Okay, cool.
But Joseph, this guy looks like he can handle it.
Hey, mate.
Okay, so we're going to go with our first taste test, but first we need to blindfold you. So I've hidden the blindfolds as well. Right, you can blindfold Joseph. He looks like a harder task. Well, just don't
We've got
peek,
some
okay?
length on this.
No peeking.
There we go.
If you can still breathe, I've not done it tight enough.
All right. Can you see anything?
Then are you completely blind?
Okay, good.
Perfect. Right. Be about half an hour like that, guys, okay? Right. Our first taste test. What we want you to do is reach into this bowl and grab one of these things. Yep. And I want you to taste it, and I want you to tell us what you think the flavour is. Dan's going to hover a mic in front of you.
Taste it now.
Yeah, go for it.
Chocolate.
Okay, nice. What do you think?
Milk chocolate.
Okay, good. How can you describe that taste?
That's black chocolate. No, not dark, as in like black, as in not dark chocolate.
So milky chocolate.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
What sort of
milky
flavour
chocolate,
is
yeah?
it?
What flavours come to mind?
Chocolate, milk chocolate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Maybe a bit more general. General taste. Joseph?
Oh, you're speaking to me?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Come on,
Oh,
Joseph,
yeah, he's
mate.
blindfolded.
We're really trying it.
Yeah, it's one of the best flavours there is.
Oh, okay.
It's really delicious. Milky, smooth, melts in the mouth.
Okay, nice.
You pretty much said all the words we didn't have on this page,
Yeah.
but the one word we were looking for was sweet. You've basically described it though. The first taste we're looking at today is sweet. So sweetness is a fundamental part of human taste. And it's often associated with pleasure and satisfaction, making it one of the most desired tastes. And I think you could tell they really rather enjoyed tasting that chocolate. How many kids would choose like a stick of celery instead of a bar of chocolate? Probably not many. But beyond the biological characteristics of sweetness, we can think about how God might have designed sweetness to give us an experience of his goodness and his care. So I went on the internet and did a bit of research about sweetness, and I found out that sweetness is primarily detected by taste buds on the tongue, which contain receptors specifically tuned to identify sugar molecules. There's probably scientists in the room who know a lot more about this than me, but anyway, go with me. And these receptors are known as G-protein coupled receptors. And they're highly receptive to glucose, fructose, and other simple sugars. When these molecules bind to the receptors, a signal is sent to the brain, which interprets the sensation as sweet. And from an evolutionary perspective, the preference for sweetness is tied to survival. So our ancestors needed sugar as a quick source of energy. So you think today we have our chewy bars and our energy drinks. Our ancestors would need this energy for survival, for everyday activities. They'd have eaten fruits which have natural sugars in them, and that sweetness gave them the energy. And so just as sweetness was key to survival for our ancestors, think of like a caveman down in the Red Bull before fighting the saber-toothed tiger, it's also key to demonstrating God's love for us. In Exodus 3, verse 8, Moses hears from God about how he wants him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt and head towards the Promised Land. And the Promised Land is described as a land flowing with milk and honey. Honey is a naturally sweet substance which symbolises abundance and divine blessing. And to be honest, I think Moses was far more inclined to head to this place than a land flowing with blue cheese and pickled onions, for example. But this metaphor extends further than that, to the understanding that God in his wisdom created our bodies with the ability to enjoy sweet tastes. The pleasure derived from sweetness can be seen as a reflection of God's desire for us to experience joy and satisfaction in the world that he created. Sweetness therefore becomes more than just a taste. It's a small but significant reminder of the goodness and caring nature of God. And sweetness is mentioned throughout the Bible. Psalm 119, in verse 103, it says, "How sweet are your words to my taste, sweeter than honey to my mouth." This verse helps highlight the spiritual truth and knowledge of God's goodness to us, brings a sweetness to life that surpasses even chocolate. Are they still awake over there? Just checking. Okay, we still got them. So it's easy to summarise the sweet taste sensation as being a profound part of the human experience, from giving us energy to keep us alive in the survival of the fittest, through to the joy of being able to savour the most mouth-watering of treats. God designed us to be able to experience his sweetness, his goodness, his love, his mercy, compassion and grace. And so sweetness is much more than biological, but a reflection of the divine love of God in the everyday experiences of life. Okay, taste test number 2. You ready? They're ready. Great, here we go. Right, I'm going to give you something else. I want you to tell me what you think. Here you go, Lenny, reach into the bowl. What you think this flavour is. Joseph? Have a big bite. Take the whole thing. Maybe, yeah.
Lemon.
All right. Oh.
Yeah, that's just lemon.
Yeah, cool. How would you describe the taste of lemon? There you go. Sour, yes. Good job, Lenny. Do you want to finish that?
Do we need a sick bucket?
Joseph, or do you want to put it back?
No, put it back.
Nice, all right.
Okay, they don't want to finish the lemon, but they said the word we were looking for, which is sour, which is brilliant. So we've learned about how sweetness, bear with me, we learned about sweetness was important to our ancestors, and it represents the goodness of God, but what about sour tastes? The sensation of sourness is a unique and essential part of our taste. Unlike the immediate pleasure we get from something associated with sweetness, sourness can evoke a range of responses. So you probably saw their faces there a little bit different when they ate the lemon than with the chocolate. From mild enjoyment to discomfort. This complex taste is deeply rooted in our biology as humans, and it serves as an important function in our perception of food and the environment. And so from a biological perspective, the ability to detect sour flavours plays a crucial role in survival. Sourness can often signal the presence of acids, so the lemon, very acidic, which can indicate spoilage or, the ripeness of food or how unripe they are. So unripe fruits are usually sour, warning that they might not yet be suitable to eat. Our ancestors couldn't just go to the hospital if they ate, a dodgy mango or something and it gave them an upset stomach. They had to know by taste that something wasn't safe for them to eat. But sometimes we have to have the experience of something over the knowledge of something to really understand it and to value it and appreciate it for ourselves. Do you remember those giant gobstoppers you could buy as kids? The ones that were like a severe choking hazard and should probably not have been sold to children at all. They were often extremely sour flavoured, weren't they? And had multiple colours, layer off layer. Toxic waste, if you got a toxic waste, it was almost like a challenge. How many toxic waste sweets can you do at one point? The sensation and the time commitment into doing one of these gobstoppers from start to finish was so much more than just knowing about what one was. And even though your tongue were basically hanging by a thread at the end of it, the experience you'd had was incomparable to just being told what a gobstopper was. And the same can be said of the goodness of God. Experience of it is so much more powerful in our lives than knowledge of it. We can know about God, we can hear about God, and listen to what our friends and our family say about God. But if we don't know God ourselves, and we haven't got that same experience over just the knowledge, and it means sometimes when the sour tastes come up in life, we won't have the experience of our own relationship with God to call upon. King David writes in the psalm we're looking at, taste and see. Don't just know what the taste is, but experience it for yourselves. So the inclusion of sourness on the taste spectrum reminds us that life isn't one-dimensional. The Bible often speaks about trials and challenges that have their purpose in shaping character and deepening faith. And in the same way, sourness can be seen as a taste that, while sometimes sharp or uncomfortable, it can bring depth and complexity to the foods that we eat. It reminds us that not all of life is beneficial and immediately pleasing, but there is value in the challenge that can refine us. And Dan's going to look at a little bit more of those flavours next.
But before, we've got another taste test. Okay, here you go, Lenny. Here you go, Joseph. All right, have a taste of that. See what you think.
This is dark chocolate.
Lenny, what do you think? What sort of taste are we getting?
Bitter dark chocolate.
Bitter dark chocolate, Joseph?
Yeah, bitter.
Yeah, okay.
Bitter, did I hear? Yep. The next word is bitter. So we've had sweet, sour, now we're on bitter. I have a massive sweet tooth. I think I may have got it from going around my grandma's house on a Sunday lunchtime and her serving at least 4 desserts. every time we went round. That's not actually my grandma, but the tray looked a bit like that. Life is amazing when we have these sweet times, isn't it? Promotions, reaching goals, achievements you've been trying to get for a long time, passing that exam, meeting the one, having kids, you fill in the blank. But times can often turn bitter. Sometimes those things that were sweet, like milk chocolate that they tasted earlier, can turn bitter in a moment. And often we question the goodness of God. Why? Because, well, why would a good God let that thing happen? Or why would he take away that thing that was so good? Maybe you're in a time in your life where everything feels sweet and the tough times don't feel very difficult. But maybe you are in a season when life is a little bitter, or those bitter things are increased. The milky, sugary goodness has been removed, or the tang of the excitement of the rush of life has been taken out, and you are left with a bit of a dull existence. Maybe you've been following God for a long time, and you tend to think back to when God has moved in your life, when it felt like you were in a stream of living water, and you long to have the kind of experiences you had with him again. For a bit of context, the verse that we're looking at today, Psalm 34, when David wrote this psalm, he was on the run from King Saul, basically because everyone liked David better than King Saul, so Saul wanted to kill him, as any kind of jealous boss would. David flees to a Philistine, an enemy town, where they recognize him. So he then acts like he's lost his mind. He foams at the mouth, acts like he's lost complete control, and they fall for it, send him on, and he flees to a cave. And it's here that he writes this psalm. This may well be a victory song for him. He may be praising God out of a joy of everything going well. But more than likely, I think he's feeling lower than he's ever felt. He was anointed king years ago, and yet he's had to run away from the palace. And then he's had to lower himself to act crazy, just to flee from the enemies that he defeated years ago when he brought down Goliath. As the adrenaline from running from the town fades, I can imagine him questioning God's plan for his life. So what does he do? He writes these words: I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is a man who takes refuge in him. So in David's questioning, in his fear, in the disappointment, as he sits in that cave, he experiences something of the nature of God's presence that drives him to worship. People I know that have gone through quite severe life-crushing times say that in the middle of their grief, in the middle of confusion and questions, they've experienced God in fuller, richer ways than they could have done without being forced in those situations. We live in the mystery of it all, don't we? One of the links for further thought this week is a YouTube video of a talk called Breaking the Bread of My Soul, by a guy called Bill Johnson, who is an American pastor who preached it the week after his wife passed away from a long-term sickness. And in it, he talks about the goodness of God. One of the standout points he makes that is in heaven, when we see God face to face, when the goodness of God will be inescapable, worship will be easy. The bitter times of this life, when things don't go the way we thought they would, are the only times when we can give sacrificial worship. Worship when we don't feel like it, when it's really hard or incredibly challenging to do so. So if that resonates at all, I would highly encourage you to watch that YouTube video. Okay, second to last
Next taste test, okay.
Test. So this is a good one, as long as you like the taste of things that crawl on 6 legs.
Hand
Just
out, Lenny.
kidding.
Okay. What sort of flavour are we getting, Lenny?
Potato.
Potato, yep.
Potato,
Joseph, anything from you?
Salt.
Salt, yeah. Salty, Lenny?
Not exactly.
Okay, right.
Not exactly. Maybe not salty enough. But the word is salty. Our fourth word. This isn't kind of a disgruntled, kind of sassy thing that we're going with here. It's the actual taste of salt. So a bit like Lenny, if I had my way, I would have every meal of mine be like a snow globe. I love salt. I know it's really bad for my health, but if it's Himalayan, if it's sea salt, rock salt, pink salt, red salt, black salt, kosher salt, or heavily chemically processed table salt, it's all good. If food is ever lacking in flavour or salt, something happens in my nervous system where I'm like, oh, so frustrated because there's more flavour that could come out. Recently I heard of a type of posh salt, this one here, which comes as a rock, and you actually have to grate it on your food before you eat it. How bougie is that? That's amazing. If anyone has one of those at their houses, let me know. I'm coming around for dinner. 2,000 years ago, Jesus said these words in Matthew chapter 5. He said, "Let me tell you why you are here. You're here to be salt seasoning that brings out the God flavors of this earth. If you lose your saltiness, how will people taste godliness? You've lost your usefulness and will end up in the garbage." Very American there. That comes from the Message version or MSG version. But this verse is saying, Jesus is saying through it, we have actually been trusted by God to do a task, bring out the God flavors of this earth. He's saying, how in the world will anyone know that God exists or the goodness of God if they don't see God working through you? So what are the God flavors of this earth? Well, in Galatians 5, it says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace," join in with me if you want, "patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law." I love that there's no law, there's no restriction to the freedom of the fruit of the Spirit of God's goodness. One tiny change in my life would enable me to be perfect at bearing the fruit of the Spirit. I would be more loving, more peaceful, more patient, more kind, and all the others. I wouldn't wake up in the middle of the night. I wouldn't get any spam emails. I wouldn't get any emails at all. Let's go. There wouldn't be any traffic or roadworks on the high street. No small talk at the barbers. The barbers being our living room and the barber being my wife. That small change would be if no humans existed apart from me. I think I'd be so godly. The good news is that we are faced with the opportunity to grow the fruit of the Spirit every day. The bad news is that we are faced with the opportunity to grow the fruit of the Spirit every day. It's really hard sometimes, isn't it? When I was in my early 20s, it's funny what you think when you're younger. I thought I would have it all figured out by the time I was 30. But here I am, 10-ish years later, and I still struggle with this. I still struggle with losing my patience or losing my peace, and all of the others, if I'm honest. But one thing I have observed is that the more aware of the presence of God I am, the more aware I am of his goodness, the easier it is to love. When our daily bread is tasting and seeing that the Lord is good, we give a banquet to others. All right, last taste.
Okay, last taste. Here you go. Last taste, guys. You ready for this one? We should just double check that you're not
here you go.
vegetarians because this may be meat, okay? But we've said it now, so...
Yeah, are you vegetarian? Okay.
You're not anymore. What does it taste like? Can you describe it?
Chicken.
Chicken.
Okay.
Joseph?
Like pork.
Okay. Does anyone actually know? So then we've gone through, what have we gone through? Sweetness, sourness.
Oh, we've got bacon.
Bacon, saltiness, bitterness. Does anyone know what the fifth flavour profile is? What the word is? Duncan? Umami. Has anyone heard of that word? Umami. You've probably heard of it now, it's been said, yeah. So umami is the taste of savouriness, and it adds a rich, deep flavour profile to foods, and they're often described as mouth-watering or hearty. It's a key element in many cuisines around the world, contributing to the depth and complexity of flavours. The goodness of God is the umami of life. Life can be sweet, can be sour, can be bitter, can be salty, but the goodness of God is the rich, deep heartiness that endures and makes everything whole. Of course, this isn't a perfect analogy, but when we know, trust, and experience the goodness of God for ourselves, it changes everything. Right, Dan's going to tell you a little bit about one of his favourite meals. Just ignore me in the background, I'm just going about my daily business.
So there's one meal we didn't talk about earlier. You can find it only in America, but it's planned to come to the UK next year. The best chicken burger in the world. And I don't say that without much experimentation and prayerful consideration. We could describe it to you. We could say about the sweetness of the bun, the sourness of the pickle, the bitterness of the lettuce, the saltiness of the chicken, and the most incredible sauce that's a perfect example of umami, how it brings everything together into one complete superior meal. I was a skeptic before, I'll be honest, and I'd be like, okay, it's a chicken burger, chill out. And then I tasted and I saw. Now I could literally drink the sauce by the pint, it's so good. I am talking about Chick-fil-A. Now, I'm not saying the goodness of God is comparable to a meal from Chick-fil-A, but you do have to taste and see with both of them. And making that point meant we could shoehorn in air frying in a morning service.
I've just realised I don't know how to use your mum's air fryer.
Oh, yeah, sure. Do you want to tell people what we're doing here?
Okay, so we thought we would share this experience with you. And don't worry, we've risk assessed it. And when I say we, Simon's risk assessed it. We've got fire blankets, we've got fire extinguishers. But we wanted to share some of this flavour with you and serve some chicken with some Chick-fil-A sauce at the end of the service. Unfortunately, they're not gluten-free. Clearly not vegetarian, but if you're okay with both of those things, we'd love for you to just have a glimpse of this taste, a little sweet piece of heaven on earth. So please, at the end of the service, and we're definitely going to run over, so I'm very sorry, come and help yourselves. Okay, Dan, I'll take back over.
Yeah, I don't know how to work that one. Okay, so if you are here and you've never heard it before, or you need reminding, like David experienced in that cave, we want to tell you that God is so good. His goodness can be trusted. It's secure. You can put your hope in it. His love is an everlasting love, and you can live with that blessed assurance like we talked about earlier. We can even be excited for life after death because we get to see Jesus face to face, the Savior who went to the cross for us to save us and separate our sin from us as far as the east is from the west. So as the band come up and start playing in the background quietly, I just wanted to leave a couple of minutes for God to reveal his goodness to us, for God to speak to us. And if this is new to you, it will likely be a still small voice. It won't be condemning, it won't be accusatory. It will be like a good father speaking to his child. So, as the music starts playing, I just encourage you to close your eyes and just ask God to speak to you. Quieten your mind and as you hear the gentle rumble of an air fryer in the background, just ask God to speak whatever he wants to reveal to you.